So thank you for coming today. We welcome you to the age-friendly January Forum, Decluttering Your Life in 2023, Developing Good Habits. We will be recording this and addressing your questions as best as we can today, but we were thinking and planning this session, the age-friendly leaders in Marin, that starting the new year is always a good time to have a forum about changing our habits or about focusing on ourselves as we plan for the months ahead. And what better way than to address perhaps some of the habits we all have in one way or another of gathering or clinging to things in our lives, in our homes, in our minds, maybe even in our hearts, holding on to things that hurt too long. So we also thought, well, we're coming out of a pandemic. We've been in our houses for months on end, and the weather here in the Bay Area has kept us in our houses for about 3 weeks of rain. Fortunately, that stopped. And a question came to mind, do we take comfort in all that's around us in our homes when we're stuck there for long periods of time? Or do we see room for change? Have we been using the time we have been in our homes to accomplish long overdue tasks or recharging? How do we use this new season, this new year to set some goals? And what changes can we perhaps make moving forward related to how we hold on to things? Maybe they're negative mental thoughts. Maybe they are items on our desk, items in our houses. Maybe they are negative stories that we keep repeating in our minds that don't really let us have a sense of full, meaningful life and happiness. So we thought that was a good topic for today, and we're so pleased to have Victoria Roberts here. She is a certified professional planner, organizer, and move manager. She's been in this business for over 22 decades, and she is a master of clearing up disorganization. And because of her personal experiences of seeing so many different, helping and seeing so many different individuals who have clung to all sorts of things. She's an expert on this call. And we also have Kelly Soto. She is a colleague of mine in the county of Marin, and she is a licensed medical health practitioner. She provides therapy services to Marin County residences through our aging and adult services. And she's really spent her whole career working with the aging population, providing therapy, individual, family, and couples and group therapy for all sorts of mental health concerns. But this is certainly clinging and clutter and the mental aspects and psychological aspects and emotional aspects behind those patterns is one of her specialties that you'll hear from today. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Victoria, and I'm going to take down my slides until you need them. And Victoria, would you like to get started? And
I'm so happy that so many people are interested in how their environments affect their lives, and they've shown up here for a discussion about some of the contributing factors and some new ways perhaps of approaching the situations that they have in their own homes. I'm guessing that a lot of you have been attempting over time to get organized, but perhaps some of your attempts have petered out and you ended up feeling overwhelmed. I know decision fatigue creeps in when you stretch a muscle that you haven't been stretching. And I consider sorting things to be, it requires a muscle really, because you're looking at it If you're a visual person, if you're a more tactile person, you're wanting to hold on to it, feel the weight of it, feel the texture of it. Other people, there's much more of a mental connection to things and emotional. So each item holds some energy about it. So when you are doing sorting or trying to organize things, all of these kinds of things, you want to use your major strength for observing and analyzing and figuring out what things are and what they mean to you.
Victoria, I don't want to interrupt your presentation, but we're not able to see your face.
Oh, I'm here. I'm on video.
Sara, can you focus on Victoria?
Sure. She is showing on my screen. Go ahead and continue, Victoria. I'll make this work.
Okay.
Thank
Sarah,
you.
it's only showing you and no one else. So you
Okay.
need to make the change.
I see everybody's name that's on the call. All the people who are participating plus the speakers are on. Their names are showing up.
Continue, and I will make it work.
Thank you, Sara.
With the seemingly fatigue and the wanting to stop doing it, I find that people also begin to feel guilty about not being able to do it. They're working as hard as they can and they still haven't been successful. But there's plenty of reasons to persist and to maybe do it in a different way, because it saves you time looking for things, and being late for things. So I do encourage everybody to see what, from both an organizer's perspective and a therapist's perspective, what you might sort of switch out. I don't know if you're familiar with the term hacking, but it's basically sort of a current way of saying you've got a workaround. It's non-technical. It supposedly is more successful for you. So we'll try to find what your hack will be for getting back into being able to make decisions more easily and with less fatigue and stress. I like to look at with each client, what are the things that affect their clutter? And some of the components are, is this person optimistic about the future? Does this person have a lot of sadness or grief that they're also coping with? Are they physically in pain from an injury or an illness? All kinds of things that are related to health, an active illness, and additionally, perfectionism. I find so many people won't do it if they can't get it perfect. And I am a perfect example of coming to speak to you because I would not be here if I thought I had to make this talk to you perfect. It is a work in progress, and it is really a conversation. I'm here because I want to hear what Kelly has to say, what all of you have to say. So I'm here fighting through my need to be giving you a perfect presentation. I think some other things that have affected clutter for me recently have been too much work, struggling with traffic. That was very wearing. Really horrendous weather, the many days of rain, the worrisome rain and winds that we've had. It's a distraction. It keeps you from doing what might be a better use of your time because you're obsessing about those things. When the fires were a high danger, I felt so many people were extra disorganized because they were partly trying to plan for evacuations, worried about all kinds of different things. And again, distractions really can take you off your game or your best opportunity for a game, we can say. I always have to say organizers have their limitations. I never want anybody to think that I'm in any way trying to do any therapeutic work. I'll do therapy on your stuff, but I won't do therapy on you. I had a job early in my career with a very large family, many children. There were scabies in the house. The mother had such severe depression that she slept in a coat closet, way too cramped for real sleeping and contentment. And as it turned out, everybody in the family wanted that closet because it was a way of isolating. They had all had big closets in their bedrooms, but the closets were blocked by clothing. And I could put in new closet systems. I put in like 25 coat hooks in the entryway so that they could all get coats hung up instead of on the floor. But I could not address the underlying psychological issues that were going on in this house. And I was never successful getting a therapist who would come participate in the project. What I can do really well is help people distinguish between stuff they don't use now, stuff they may never use, and things that have value of some kind to them or somebody they're responsible for. What I find works is, to start with, is sorting. If you can figure out what you can use now or you can use in the future, that is sorting. And the rest of it is either destined for landfill or for recycling or shredding or donation or gifting to someone. I have, where it's appropriate, done a lot of curb alerts and things that people don't want to use. It saves a lot of time and money for containers and boxing things up if we just put it at the curb and put up an alert on Nextdoor or something. It doesn't work for every neighborhood, but that has been a really useful way to get things out of a house that the person doesn't have a commitment to any longer or a use for. In terms of the actual way of proceeding, I recommend Julie Morgenstern's book. It's oh gosh, what is it? It's up there on my bookshelf somewhere. Organizing from the Inside Out is the title of this book. It's one of her first books, started in the 90s, I think. And she has a process called SPACE, S-P like Peter, A-C-E. And it's sort, purge, assign, which means decide where it's going to go and what its real task and job is. Contain, and that means a container or a closet or a drawer. Just where does it belong, where you can get your hands on it again. And then the last word, she had to think of some way for getting an E on the word space, because the outcome is space. But she came up only with the word equalize. And it takes people a long time to understand how equalizing the things in your home brings about balance. But it means, like, when you get up in the morning before you leave for your day, you put things away that you've gotten out. So you kind of set up a routine that allows you to equalize all of the stuff in the house. It has a place, you get it back there. This process that I use guides me when I arrive at a client's home to show up with contractor bags, with donation bags. The donation bags are a different color than the trash bags. I bring boxes. I try to get used boxes for donations. I bring painter's tape for labeling things and Sharpie pens. And that's really all you need to begin. I don't suggest going out and buying stuff at Container Store or Target to put things in until you know what you really need. We decide where to begin based on a number of factors. Sometimes the first thing you have to do is just remove trash and recycling, and that makes a very big difference just in doing that. Then you may start where the person finds the most annoyances and the most aggravation. And other times I've had to start right at the door because there's so much stuff blocking the door that you can't really work on other areas. But I'll say it's unique, and there is no one pat formula for how to organize or even to begin to organize. Kelly's going to talk a little bit more about where the more deeply emotionally blocked situations require different approaches. There are some perspectives I always like to sort of get my head wrapped around and help clients with. I'm going to just read off a couple of them. The physical state of your home is often a representation of how you feel in your head. So if you can think about that, when you look at your house, is that how you feel inside your head as well? Mental clutter can lead to anxiety or depression, and it can define your overall sense of well-being. And when I talk about depression, and in 20 years, I would say a huge percentage of people who have depression also have a lot of dust, mold, and mildew. So environmental factors can have a big impact on how you feel, and in addition to that, how your health is. When you've got a lot of dust and mold and mildew, you're compromising your body's mechanisms from working well. There's another wonderful quote from Joshua Fields Milburn from The Minimalists, and that's something you might add to your, I want to go check that out. It's theminimalists.com. And they put something out almost every day, and it's very engaging. They say it's letting go is not something you do, it's something you stop doing. And that's just a sort of a perspective to use when you're thinking, oh, I have so much to do. Turn that around a little bit and say, is there something I can stop doing that will have an impact on my situation? I love Gloria Steinem's comment in her book, My Life on the Road. She says home is a symbol of the self, and caring for a home is caring for oneself. So if you look around your home and what you see is that is that a symbol of yourself? Is that the symbol you want to see represented? Caring for your home, I think, gives you a chance to care for yourself, and you will almost surely feel better in a home that you have done some rearranging in. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the only person you're destined to become is the person you decide to be. So if you want to decide to be an organized person, or a person who can find things when they need them, a person who has time to do things in their life that are more important to them than obsessing about whether they're organized or not, you can be a part of that decision. That's a very good place to begin. Speaking of how do we get started, there's two ways. You can start with the head method, or you can start with the hands method. And some people are so traumatized about the idea of organizing that they can't get out of their head. So we just start with our hands first. And that is my neurodiverse preferred way of operating. My mind engages the more my hands do things. So don't think you have to do it any one way. There are different brain processing styles, and we can go into that if we have time, but just know that your brain has its own best practice way of operating. If you're working in the head method, it helps to accomplish a new goal or manage a project if you have some self-awareness and understand how environments do affect your feelings, your thinking, and your ability to get things done easily. So that's part of what was reflected by your home. Kelly's going to show you some wonderful ways of figuring out some of this inner head stuff. They're called the stages of change and SMART goals. And it really helps create clarity about what your project is and where you are in it. I often use mind maps, and I think you have a copy of that in the attachments. I won't go into it too much right now, but essentially you just get a blank piece of paper, maybe some colored pens, and you'll begin with, I drew a circle last time I did it. Other people will draw a square, but there we go, we've got it on the screen. So in that inner circle, you kind of look at what's filling up your head right now, what's filling up your visual space right now. And then the arrows can go out to, what are the things that you're not doing that you want to be doing? What's outside your enclosed box of what's taking up all of your time and your energy. And that can be very revealing. And you see the balance in your life quite quickly when you do that. So we can return to that more, but I have a feeling there's going to be many more items. But just Google mind maps, and there's just a lot of information about how to use them and engage with them. Let's see, Kelly's going to handle that. Habits are our friends, and they're not to be judgmental, but they're good habits and there are bad habits. There are self-defeating habits that we just do time and time again, and creating more awareness and focus on what your real goal is kind of sorts that out. So that's another thing that Kelly's going to deal with in more detail. I find that when I'm overly busy and my mind isn't working at its best and I'm distractible, that if I have a sequence of tasks and routines, and I help my clients work out sequences of tasks and routines so that they don't miss important things that they actually want to accomplish. So think the word sequence, and anything from when you're getting ready to go to bed at night, so you don't forget to floss your teeth, or you don't forget to take your earrings out. All these little things, if you do a sequence, and a sequence often depends on a list, and I'm not opposed to using Post-it notes for my sequence if I need a little support. But those sequences and tasks and routines become your friends because you don't have to engage your brain constantly. Some people want to know, should I set a timer when I'm organizing? And my answer back is, does a timer make you feel good, like it's a challenge or a competition and you're beating your best time and that sort of thing? Or does it add anxiety and worry that you're not going to be good enough at it? And I'd say don't use a timer if it just adds to your anxiety. I wanted to add to the resource list that I believe you're going to get access to. Make sure you add theminimalists.com and also ADD.com. And it's the Attention Deficit Disorder Association. And if you join them, I think you can get quite a bit of it without joining. But as a member, you can take for free these incredible webinars on all kinds of topics. And I have found that to be a great tool for my clients, and I enjoy it. I every time I see something, there's some little nugget that I get from it, and I can't recommend that enough. I think I've said enough basically, and I'm hoping that more conversation and questions will fill in any other parts that I have missed.
Victoria, we have one question that Patty shared that I think you might want to address first. How can you accurately predict what you might use in the future when you're looking at shedding?
Accurately predict. I think it depends on your life and your circumstances. There are many unpredictable things. And I would just say, worst case scenario, how frequently or what's the likelihood of this coming up? Can I get it again easily? Is it something that's too special, unique, that I should hold on to it? Because if I need it, it's going to cost a lot to replace it, or it's really not accessible to me. I'd start there and just see what comes out from that. You cannot predict everything, and people who hoard will see that there's a future value for everything, every scrap of material, every rubber band. I use the word enough. How much is enough? How many boxes of tissues? How many rubber bands? How many binder clips? How many pairs of socks? How many pairs of running shoes? And running shoes, and in Marin County here, I've been shocked on Nextdoor to read about all of the stolen e-bikes. And somebody just reported that they had 7 of their e-bikes stolen. I was like, 7 e-bikes. Is that enough? So enough is in the eye of the beholder or the thinker, but enough is a nice filter to put it through.
Thank you. Before we get started, I'm going to Kelly's going to run us through a values task in a second, but I think it's important for both of our speakers to have a sense, and for all of us to have a sense of who's in the audience. So I'm going to launch a quick poll right now. It won't take a second. Please, the question is, I have a tendency to, and then there are lots of options and you can choose more than one. You have a tendency to cling to material things, stories, habits, viewpoints, practices or rituals, beliefs. Please choose those things that are pertinent to you. And this will give Kelly and Victoria a sense of what we all cling to. Just another few seconds. We were just over half of our participants having given their thoughts.
I don't see how I have the option of multiple choice.
Oh, it only gave you one option, huh?
No, it looks like I'm seeing the results.
Oh, because you're a co-host.
Oh, all right, then I won't vote.
All right, I'm going to end the poll there. We're almost to complete, and I'm going to share the results. So, obviously, material things are number one. Looks like practices or rituals may be number two, whether they're healthy or not. And close tie between personal stories that I mull over frequently and beliefs. So that's very helpful. Thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Kelly, who will give us a little task on values before she gets started.
Good morning. So I kind of just wanted to, before I began, wanted us to all kind of get thinking about ourselves a little bit, or if we're a community partner, our clients. So if you don't have anything to write with, or a piece of paper or a pen, I want you to take a second, or if you did it on your computer, grab out a piece of paper or a pen, if you would, for me. I'm going to ask you to do a little activity with me. So I want you to make a list of values. I want you to start. I'm gonna list a couple of them, and if you have others that you think of, write those down as well. But I want you to start this list with 5. So these are the ones that I have to start off with. And pick 5. Money, family, friendship, companionship, love, living in our own home, work, retirement, travel, drive, and independence.
5.
Pick 5. And I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to pick 5. And if you want me to list those out in the chat, I can as well. Or if Patty wants to do that, if she got them all.
I will do that.
Okay.
That's the 5 most important.
Yes, 5 most important to you. Sorry, I apologize.
I think I skipped 2.
Okay, what do you have? And I can,
Family, friendship, love, companionship, living in own home, drive, retirement,
independence, money, family,
Yeah, I said family.
companionship,
Yep.
love,
Family, friendship, love, companionship, living in own home, drive, retirement, independence, money,
work.
work.
Mm.
I wasn't sure if you meant driving or being driven.
Having drive,
Okay,
having something to live for,
passionate about. Okay,
passion. Yeah.
thanks.
Driving could be another one that I didn't mention that you want to add for yourself. Were you able to list those, Patty?
What?
Were you able to list those out?
Yep,
can't.
yep, they're listed.
I don't see them in the chat.
I don't see them either. Oh, there we go.
There we are. Okay. Thank you, Patty.
Please don't tell my husband I put work first.
This is completely up to you. This is just somewhere to start off with, something to start to think about. And if you can't write them down, just think about it. Think about the first 5 things that come to your mind. Oh, health. Health is another big one. Just for ourselves. This is just for you to start thinking about. If you want to share, you can, but mainly this is just for us to think about.
I need a mind map to do it.
Respect is another beautiful one. Now I'm going to challenge you even further. I'm going to challenge you even further, and in those 5 things that you picked, pick one. Pick the most important. Declutter it from 12 things that I gave you to 5 things that I challenged you with, to 1 thing that seems maybe impossible. But circle that most important thing. It's hard. It's hard, isn't it? Decluttering. Just even thinking about decluttering our brain. It's hard for everybody, I tell you. So now what I want you to do is I want you to take a deep breath in through our nose and take a deep breath out through our mouth. And do that one more time. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Because what you just did was hard, and this is just the beginning. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to be talking with you about the emotional, mental, and behavioral clutter that we keep and how we can look more deeply at these things. I don't want to just talk at you. I don't want to lecture you. This is important stuff, and I don't want to give you all the psychological jargon that you're going to forget in a couple of minutes, because I know I would forget it too. I want to engage you, and I want to have a conversation with you, and I want to get you to think. I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions that you don't necessarily have to answer right now, but just to think about. And if you want, I can provide all the questions that I asked to Patty at the end, so you can think about it more deeply at another time. In this discussion as well, I want us to think about ourselves. And if we've been helping a loved one or helping a neighbor, think about them as well. And if we're a community partner, we can think about our clients. But instead of focusing maybe on other people that may need help, I want us to start with ourselves. But I know some people here might be helping friends or family members, and that's okay too. We can absolutely think about them. Before I begin, I want to also differentiate that today we're discussing decluttering, not hoarding disorder. Hoarding disorder is a serious, persistent mental illness defined in the DSM as persistent difficulty discarding or parting with possessions, regardless of their actual value. This difficulty is due to a perceived need to save the item and due to the distress associated with discarding the item. Hoarding disorder is a very complex, serious mental illness diagnosed by a mental health professional, and treatment is required to help the individual get through this. If you are more interested after this in learning about hoarding disorder, particularly, there's a wonderful book entitled Stuffed by Gail Steckley and Randy Frost that you can learn more about it, and we can add that to the slide as well. There are some communities in Marin County that there's a hoarding organization in Marin County as well. If you think that's something you want to look more into. As well, I know Victoria has a couple of websites that we can provide you as well. Today, we're discussing decluttering our life. So I want to begin by asking, what is clutter? Stuff. S-T-U-F-F. Stuff. So what is clutter? When speaking about clutter broadly, it is defined, and I kind of really like this definition. It's defined as a collection of things lying about in an untidy mass. A collection of things lying about in an untidy mass. Those clutter isn't just things, right? Clutter can be something physical, like Victoria talked about, or something mental, emotional, or behavioral. These things left in an untidy mass could be cluttering our minds instead of, or in combination with, our physical worlds. The first thing that comes to mind when I talk about clutter is saving things. What kinds of things do we save? Movie tickets, if we still go to the movies, takeout menus. I know we do a lot of that. With the app, we might not have as many menus, but what do we have in our junk drawer? I know we all have one. And maybe our junk drawer is a little bit bigger than just a junk drawer. Maybe it's a junk closet or a junk garage. What are we saving on to? Are these things that we're saving onto a part of our legacy that we hope to pass on, or that we're currently enjoying? Or are these things just things, just stuff filling up our room because we love Amazon, because it's so convenient to have next day shipping? Are these things a part of our legacy? Are these things giving us joy? Or again, I'll ask, are these things just filling space? What do we have in our hope chest? What makes us save these things? Is it the actual physical item that we are saving? Or is it the memory associated with the item that we're saving? If the answer is that it's the memory, is the memory giving us pain or joy? Is looking at this item or thinking about this memory giving us joy, or is it causing us heartbreak and pain? Are these things and memories adding meaning to our lives or taking away meaning from our lives? Does having physical or emotional clutter that we are just keeping and holding on to add or take away from us having a meaningful life? When we can see through all that clutter, be it physical, mental, or behavioral, because it could be a habit too, whatever that clutter is for you personally, or your loved one, or your client, we're able to live a more meaningful, joyful life that we enjoy. Especially as we age, living a meaningful life is key, and it's so important. So let me ask you these questions. What gives meaning to your life? What gives life meaning as we age? Is it the things that we have, stuff that fills our walls? Is it the people that we spend time with? Is it the memories that we hold so dear? Is it the things that we do that we enjoy? What makes us feel fulfilled and brings us joy, both physically and emotionally? What do we want to have at the end of our lives? As we transition through our lives, like I asked you in the beginning, what is truly most important? If we knew we only had so much time left, what would we want with us? Things, people, experiences, memories, personal, intimate belongings, things we maybe inherited, things maybe we're passing down. If we cherish these things, would we rather declutter now ourselves, especially if these are personal, intimate things, rather than leave it for somebody else to do? Rather than leave it for a loved one to have to do for us. When I was young, my mother passed away when I was 12 years old. And I was handed down 3 of her journals that she wrote in as she was going through cancer. And those were very personal, intimate things that she waited to give to me and told me I couldn't read until I was older because they were very personal, intimate things, right? If people had just found those journals, those very personal things, maybe somebody would not respect it as much. We want to have a plan for our things, especially if they mean something to us. If they're just things, then they're just things. Then if they're just things, that's it. So in asking what we cherish, what we hold dear to ourselves, I must also ask, what are we avoiding letting go of, both physically, behaviorally, and emotionally? That may not be healthy to hold on to. What do we know holds no or little or maybe even negative value in our lives? But we are not ready to process that meaning. Or if it's too painful, let us think about what is keeping us in that clutter. What is keeping us from letting go? physically, mentally? What is stopping us from being able to move through the clutter? Are there things, habits, emotions, people even, that you're ready to let go of physically or emotionally to live a more meaningful life? I now want you to visualize something or things that are most important to you. Now visualize something or things that are cluttering your mind or your physical world that you could let go of to help you live a more meaningful life. I want us now to go back to the values activity that we did in the very, very beginning. As we think about our own values and think about our own readiness to let go of clutter, when we process through letting go, we need to start to discuss readiness for change and start making goals to accomplish this change. We need to first be ready to set a plan and move forward in decluttering our lives. Ahead of this forum, you were given 2 different worksheets. One titled Stages of Change, the next titled SMART Goals. Let's look at those now, if you can pull those up. Could we pull those up now? And I'll semi-quickly go over those as we end my portion today. As we look through these, I want you to think about all the questions that I asked you and all the things that we talked about, just as a jumping off point. The stages of change, we start with pre-contemplation. Pre-contemplation is, there's no problem. There's nothing I need to change in my life. I'm not doing it. End of story. Contemplation is, I know there's a problem, but I don't know where to begin. I don't even know if I'm ready to change, but I know there's a problem. Preparation is, all right, there's a problem. I'm ready to change it, but where do I begin? Who do I ask for help? What's step 1? And this is often when we bring in a therapist or bring in a social worker or somebody like Victoria to come and help us prepare for what this is going to look like. Or even if we bring in friends or family, we say, I need help. What is step 1? I'm ready to do it, but I don't know what that looks like. Then we make a plan with ourselves, with partners, with whomever, and we put that plan into action. That's the action stage. We make some steps forward. Then we maintain. We say, all right, I can do this. I've maintained whatever it is that I want, whatever it is the problem, for a month, 2 months, 6 months. But I made a mistake and I relapsed. I know relapse is kind of a taboo word because we kind of associate it with some pretty negative things. But relapse could be anything, just a step backwards. But I want, in talking about this, I want to make it clear that if we do make a step backwards, that doesn't mean we have to start in the beginning. We could go back to maintenance and say, all right, I made a mistake. Great example, Sarah. I bought 2 books I shouldn't have bought. Do I have to go back to the beginning? No, I can go back to maintenance and say, I already have all the steps. I'm okay. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to have to stumble a little bit. So again, in that preparation and that action stage, that's kind of where we make these SMART goals and get in some help. So let's bring up those SMART goals now, if we could. The SMART goals. I love SMART goals. I think of it like if I was to go on vacation and I was to call my boss, Lee, and say, hey, Lee, I think I'm going to go to Hawaii tomorrow. He would say, excuse me? You're going to go do what? What about your clients? What about your kid? What about your dog? Where is this money coming from? How long are you going to be gone? We have to make a plan. We have to have objectives, right? All right, I'm going to go to Hawaii August 1st. I'm going to stay for 2 weeks. I got boarding for my dog. My son is going to stay with my kids. I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. I'm going to go to Honolulu, right? We have to make a plan. So SMART goals. First one is specific. That goal needs to have specifics to it. I am going to Hawaii. It has to be measurable. How can I measure it? I'm going to get on the plane. I'm going to be there. That's how I'm going to measure it. I'm going to be there. Attainable. Can I do that? Do I have the money to do that? Do I have the time to do that? Do I have the time off to do that? Is that an attainable goal for me? Is that realistic for me to do? Is that something that I think that I could accomplish? And finally, for me, one of the most important things is time-oriented. If I say I'm going to go tomorrow, that's not time-oriented. That's not going to happen. If I say in September, I'm going to do that, that might be more realistic, or even January of next year. So in looking at your readiness to declutter something in your life, physical, behavioral, mental, use these activities, use these worksheets as kind of a jumping off point. If you think you are in that readiness stage to get some help in decluttering your life, and you want some professional help, we've got some really, really great resources, Marin, that I can provide you with. I will list them, and I'll have maybe Patty or Sara send them to you or list them as well. So there's Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, BHRS. There's Aging in Adult Services of Marin. There's Buckaloo. There's the Community Institute on psychotherapy. There's Veterans Affairs if you're a veteran. And many, many, many others. So I want to really thank you all for being here, and I'm going to pass it off to Sara. I know Victoria's going to do a mind map, and I know we're going to do some questions as well. So thank you. I appreciate you listening.
Kelly, thank you so much. That is a very thoughtful process you've led us through. And I do want to note, you had mentioned that Marin had a special resource it was a collaboration on hoarders, and I thought it had disbanded, but you must know more than I do. I know it was a spin-off of something in San Francisco, but are they still active?
I believe they are. I can, Carol Lucchese at Aging and Adult Services knows a lot about it. I can definitely ask her more about that information.
Yeah, we'd like to add that to our resource sheet that we're going
Absolutely.
to give everybody. So let's get the specifics, because when you go to the San Francisco Association, although it has a link, it goes to nothing now. So great, thank you. And then I just want to mention, we have some people from Marin Villages here, the village organization here in Marin, and one of our board members has let us know that they obviously have loads of volunteers who are willing to assist residents with decluttering and organizing. So that's another good resource here in Marin, and actually anybody from other locations might find a village. For instance, I think there is a Brooklyn Village group, so I would encourage you to look at them as well. Lori Schifrin has said no, the Marin Hoarders as a collaborative has dissolved, but we'll wait till we hear from your work colleague. That'll be great. Before we go into Victoria's, wait, I'm sorry, was there something at the end you wanted to do? I guess it was the mind map again, but you've really covered that. let's ask if there are any questions, please.
Sarah, there was a question or a comment that the ADD maybe was referring to additude.com. Is it possible that additude.com was the correct website for that ADD?
When I look it up, it's add.com, but it's also, if you put in ADDA, that's the Attention Deficit Disorder Association, it's the same website.
Okay, good, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a reference to a book called Buried in Treasures.
Right.
Uh,
It's a big workbook. It's a big time commitment. Probably the most deeply disorganized people I've ever worked with own every organizing book that has ever been written.
Of
So
course.
I won't necessarily say that having more books really makes you more organized, but that is it's a book that's been tested, and most people do it in a workshop format. So there's a leader of the group, and a group of people work their way through with accountability doing that book. Most people cannot do it on their own unless they're extremely motivated.
And also our local newspaper columnist, Marnie Jameson, who
Yeah.
writes in the Marin IJ, wrote a book called What to Do with Everything You Own to Leave the Legacy You Want. And a lot of it has to do with figuring out if you need a trust or anything like that. But she also talks about if you think your Beanie Baby collection is going to fund your retirement, you better rethink that. And they made reference to if you have someone come in and sell your entire home contents, that the average is about $5,000 that you would net from that. So very alarming and enlightening. Thanks.
There's so many different perspectives to take and theories. I guess Marie Kondo, what is it, Marie Kondo, or I'm sorry,
Kondo, Kondo.
Kondo, right? So then she's got her strategies, and I recently was made aware of the whole Swedish and Norwegian practice of death cleaning, and there are lots of books on it. It's called, one of them is a Swedish death cleaning checklist, but it's a philosophy that both Victoria and Kelly were referring to, is taking a look at what you have and whether that is something that is meant for somebody after you've died, or whether it brings you joy in the moment, but do you need as many of those as you do? So it really is about whittling down. And they go also into the psychology of also decluttering your mind as well in that process. And making sure, as Kelly has led us today, making sure that everything that you have, that you're thinking, that you're doing is bringing real meaning to your life. And as you helped us to do, Kelly, to prioritize what those values are and what pertains to those. So
we have another question. How do you handle the idea of hesitating to get rid of things that you paid good money for? It makes me hesitate to give these things away. I find that if I find someone else who will cherish it as much as I, that helps.
Victoria, you also may have some suggestions there.
I think that reflecting on what is the quality of life you need now, decisions you made in the past were related to moments in the past, and your present and your future are much more important. And if the space you need to live the life you want is impacted by keeping things that you spent good money on, but they're in your way, they are a poor investment. And some people cut their losses and just say it's more important. I'll get more out of not having it than I get continuing to own it. And what Patty said about gifting it to somebody else is very, very, very helpful.
what helped me when I downsized was taking photos of the things that I gave away.
Perfect.
And every now and then I'll come across them on my phone, and it's just a sweet little thought that, oh, I remember that coffee table. It was beautiful. Now my niece has it, or now it's housing somebody at St. Vincent's de Paul. And
I also think about, in the same vein, if those are things that at the end of your life or in a different transition, if you are downsizing, that you are going to be giving to somebody at some point in your life, like Linda was just saying, if you're going to be planning on giving some in however long it is, what's causing us to wait till the end of our lives? Why not gift them now? Give them as something, like you said, something for somebody else to be cherished. If we're planning on giving them, period, if we think somebody would enjoy them, or if they mean something to us and we don't just want them to disappear at some point, gifting them is a wonderful idea if we think somebody, rather than just putting them in the trash can. So that's just kind of my 2 cents.
And Stan is asking, since the nonprofits really prefer cash instead of physical things, what are the practical alternatives for when you, and this is probably for Victoria, for getting rid of the stuff?
Well, I give kudos to Goodwill, as much as many people have their issues with Goodwill. They were open pretty much throughout COVID, when every household was doing a review of what was important to them at the moment, considering that it was a worldwide pandemic. You know, there was much more on the line than a lot of the things they had in their lives. And I worked throughout COVID, and I'd go and wait in a line of cars to unload at Goodwill. And they really have benefited so many people. I also use many of the small thrift shops. I love Hodgepodge. I love the Humane Society's thrift shop. Mount Carmel in Mill Valley is just fabulous. And I take incredibly lovely things there for clients, and you know, it's all going to good work. Some free lunches are created out of people's donations. I'm trying to think where else the small ones are. I'd love to hear from any of you out there who have your favorite donation site that does good works, because my colleagues and I are always looking for new avenues. There's consignment stores. But selling things and garage sales, you have to be able to invest a lot of your own time, because the money you get for it is so little. But it can be fun doing it with a gang of friends. I've made thousands of dollars for people, but it was mostly the labor has to be volunteered, because otherwise you don't make any money.
one of the things when I was downsizing, one of the tips was to send photos of things that my children might want or that I wanted to get rid of, to so that they could let me know what they wanted. And it got me in that place of understanding what's meant by the phrase, your kids don't want it. Yeah. Because I probably that way got rid of about 10%. I also included, their cousins and other relatives, depending upon the thing. But, at least I knew that some of my treasured things went to somebody else who was going to treasure, and it's fun to see it in their homes. But there was the question about how to get to the place about the hesitancy. It just takes time. I think you start thinking about it. Maybe get rid of a few other things like some books. I don't know. And then after a few months, you'll be able to say, oh, I'm going to call, St. Vincent's de Paul, or I'm going to take everything down to Goodwill. And I can let it go with some comfort and some, pleasure in paying it on to somebody else. So there's just some tips on that.
I always think about how do you eat an elephant?
Slowly.
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time, right? When Victoria was sharing in the beginning, that last word of space, what was the last word of space?
Equalize.
Equalize.
Equalize. And you talk about how she was trying to fit that in. I think about if it takes 5 minutes to throw something away. If there's one little thing, just one tiny thing you can do right now, but you say, oh, I'll do that later. I'll come back to that. But you have the 5 minutes to do it now. Why are we coming back later? What else are we doing right this instant that we could be throwing away or that we could be thinking about? When in the moment we're thinking about it, why come back to it? So that's kind of what I think about is if we've got the time to do this one small little thing, and it's on our mind now, let's just try to do it. Much easier said than done, but small little things, right? One bite at a time.
And if you look back on the little baby step that you took and go, okay, nothing horrible happened when I got rid of that, I guess I can get rid of something else.
And with that, one little thing I'd like to ask all our participants is if you can take yourself off mute and give Victoria and Kelly a hand, a little response.
Thank you so much.
That was excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Pleasure very much.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Inspiring.
This has been a really wonderful forum, and we thank you both for sharing your expertise and your guidance for all of us. And one thing that our participants can do is put their email. If you didn't sign up with Eventbrite, but came on this Zoom in a different manner, put your email in the chat and we will make sure you get all the tools and resources that were shared. We also have a resource page that includes some of the books and websites that were referred to. If you signed up on Eventbrite, those will come to you automatically in a follow-up email. We also will encourage you and we'll send to you a flyer about our February forum that we're planning right now. I think this is going to hit a lot of people's hearts as well and minds. We are going to have a forum called Spring Out and Mingle for Your Health. We have been talking to people in community and we know that people are at all different levels of comfort in coming out and socializing and doing so safely. So we have asked one of our Department of Public Health directors to come and speak. Dr. Lisa Santora will be speaking to us in February on the safe way to come out and mingle, regardless of whether it's COVID or respiratory viruses or just your own fears, addressing your fears and concerns. She's also going to talk about what are the negatives of not coming back out and socializing, and what are the negatives of staying by oneself a lot of time and isolating oneself, and how that can be so detrimental to one's physical health as well as mental health. So, and then we will have one of our staff members or two of our staff members from our behavioral health services to address the more psychological and mental side and the questions that come up about that. So please join us next month. It will be on the February 22nd, same time, 10:30. And you will be able to register on Eventbrite. It will be called Age-Friendly Marin, Spring Out and Mingle for Your Health. So we hope to see you then. Thank you.
I wanted to say that stay tuned for the March presentation, which is Vicki Larson, who is also a columnist in our local paper and a author, is going to talk about sensuality and sexuality as we age. Not Too Old for That is the name of her book. And it's going to be an interesting and discussion-filled conversation. So that should be a really intriguing month. So we've got the stepping out in February and the sensuality and sexuality in March, and a lot other great topics coming up after that. So join us.
And if you have a friend you'd like to send this recording to, let us know too, in an email. We have a YouTube channel where we're posting these recordings and we'll be distributing them more widely the more we get up. So we always are able to send you a recording link to this if you have a friend who might need it. So thank you so much, and everybody have a lovely day.
Thank you, everybody.
Go clean out your clutter.